Hi everyone, it's Josh and Ryan from behind the scenes at Your Paper Quest. We just wanted to kind of show you some of the new stuff that's going on and talk about the website a little bit because things look a little bit different, don't they, Ryan?
Yeah, we've been working on some big changes over the past few months, and it's really cool to kind of see them all come together. And we thought that this would be a great way to not just show you guys what we've been working on and go through everything slowly, but at the same time further explain who we are, what we do, and what we're working towards.
Absolutely. And if you could just talk us through the new design, layout, and kind of logos associated with both the website and everything else as well. What made you kind of go with this style,
Yeah.
this very kind of adventure filled, kind of fantasy-ish, really, really interesting kind of design to it.
Yeah, I think, well, a lot of times, so the first website we had was essentially something that I had created to make it, to get it out there, to get the idea up and running. This way we could start, for lack of a better word. Now we really wanted to design it in a way that felt like you were in a cozy reading nook. We wanted it to be more related to reading, less corporate. We wanted it to feel more professional, to give subscribers a much better idea of what we're about, who we are, what we're doing. And frankly, we wanted to make the interface a lot more seamless than it was. Like I can be the first to recognize that the original website we had was not our best piece of work, but it got the job done. So it feels really nice to have this opportunity now to actually be able to grow into something bigger.
Well, I wanted to kind of go through the kind of the who we are really in terms of an introduction. Obviously, Ryan, you do a lot of that sort of stuff, and I'm doing a little bit as well. But it would kind of be good to kind of give an overview of what your paper quest is.
Mm. Yeah, so excuse me. So, for those of you that don't know, Your Paper Quest is a book of the month subscription box exclusively featuring stories from indie and self-published authors. The whole idea is to basically help indie authors get more exposure and to get readers to read more than just what's on a table when you walk into a bookstore. Don't get me wrong, they're great books, but it's good to read kind of just outside the box there. And then obviously, we have the team of myself, Josh, and Steve. And everyone pulls so much more than I could ever ask from them. But behind the scenes, I wish it were all sunshine and rainbows and reading books, but there's so much when it comes to tech, when it comes to social media, when it comes to curation, logistics, and it 100% would not be possible without Josh and Steve.
One of the things I wanted to kind of come on to is obviously the author section is really interesting in terms of kind of highlighting, I guess an almost a big bookshelf of kind of what your paper quest has accomplished and who it's supported. You know, th- is this one of the main ways you're hoping to highlight, the authors you work with? You obviously talk about obviously, being a real big advocate for the self-publishing kind of
Mm.
writing community. How does your paper quest help those types of authors?
So that's it's a big question. Excuse me. The Meet the Authors page has for us been a really, really important way to help humanize the authors. And obviously they're human, but to help remind readers that there is somebody creating these stories behind the scenes. And it took us a while to figure out the design, how we want to go about it, but we don't want to hide and shy away from the books that we have featured. Every story we feature, we stand behind, we have loved in one way or another, and we think completely stand up against traditionally published stories. These authors didn't have the same type of resources, wanted to go about it their separate ways, and wanted to have full creative control over their stories, because that's ultimately what it comes down to. A lot of these indie voices would not have otherwise had a platform. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of good that traditional publishing does, but when it comes to full creative control, nothing is better than indie, in my opinion. And that goes outside of reading. You can see it in movies, you see it in board games, video games, music. It really has become a much bigger movement. And I think that that's just such a wonderful thing as well. I wanted to highlight, so if you just click on, let's say, the power of resilience, because here at the bottom we have the theme of the month. And then you click on it and the page will load. It's a little bit slower working on that. You'll have the two stories we feature every month. And then if you click on either of the story, if you want to know more about the author, more about the story, you'll have a little four-question Q&A where the questions are different from author to author. And then you click on them and they scroll down accordion style. But then if you scroll down even further, we'll also have the interview with the author available there. And some authors have author websites, which will be featured. I don't know if Chris has, but Shannon has her author website as well, just right above the image of the story on the right. So there's all these little things as well that help us give the reader, give the author a little bit more exposure. And at the same time, if you are interested, if you are a subscriber, if you are a reader, and this is a story that interests you, reach out to the author. Or even better, if you go onto the author's page and you see stories from before that you missed, that you're subscribed now, but you can't get the stories from the past, at the end of the day, even if you buy them, like if you reach out to the author's site, you're still supporting the author. We're not the only way to support indie authors. We're just trying to make it more accessible to people.
Absolutely, and this kind of showcases to me the kind of the level of depth that kind of the new website can provide in terms of you can go down a whole rabbit hole of reading about a certain author and learning more about them, which I think is really really awesome to see. One thing I was curious to learn a bit more about is obviously the blog section of the website, in kind of more of those, I guess, more opinion focused pieces, not to say, alongside the stuff, obviously the author stuff is very interesting and very personal in that level as well. But yeah, can you tell me a bit more about kind of what you're hoping to feature in the blogs?
Yeah, so the blog section, Josh would know. He's written quite a few of them. The blog section is a lot of resources. We have a few interviews in there. Essentially, like for example, Damn Wild and Death in Velvet, the two authors weren't able to feature in the interview that we do at the end of the month. So we did a Q&A with them, a much more in-depth one than the one on their author profile page. And we have the whole Q&A there. Um, the blog section is really just an opportunity for us to get to speak on things that we find important and at the same time gives not just subscribers, but obviously anybody, whether they be a self-published author or just a regular visitor to the website, gives them an opportunity to we how do I phrase this? We want to serve as a resource for all things self-publishing, why it's important to self-publish, why it's important to support indie. The blog post you just opened now is one of my favorites about cover art and why investing in what do you call it? Why investing in cover art is so important. I know we always say don't judge a book by its cover, and we'll get into this. You get into this in the blog post, but it is incredibly important for, unfortunately. The other thing that we're doing within the blog section that we're becoming more consistent with now is Steve's Novella Corner, where there's a lot of pros, but there's also some cons of YPQ. And one of the things that we struggle with is we can't necessarily feature stories that are shorter. We can't really feature novellas because we can only send out two books a month, and we don't want our subscribers to feel that one story is bigger than the other, this or that. So Novella Corner will be every month. We're going to start highlighting a story that we truly feel that we just found was an incredible story. And the nice thing with Novella Corner is that it's a little bit more experimental. There's quite a few stories that Steve has sent my way that we've gone through the submissions that we've enjoyed, but we didn't feel felt the most accessible to readers. So Novella Corner is kind of where we can start pushing those boundaries, highlighting stories that we wouldn't have otherwise had an opportunity to highlight. And that's kind of what we're all about is we want to make sure that good stories have an audience and that everybody kind of has that opportunity. So stay tuned. We're going to be coming out with them at least once a month, and we're really excited about that kind of new aspect that we're focusing on.
So talk us through the submissions part of the website, right?
Yeah, so when it comes to the submissions, we try to make it as open and seamless as possible. Ultimately, we have a few kind of restrictions that we have to work with, a few requirements. The first one being stories need to be less than 350 pages. And the reason being is that for starters, larger books don't fit in our packaging. And a follow-up is that when it comes down to our monthly subscription, whether you're subscribed monthly, bi-monthly, or quarterly, if you're receiving two books in the mail, if one of those books is 500 or 600 pages and we're focused on accessibility, it might feel too intimidating for a lot of people to start. I know myself included. So we're trying to stick between a sweet spot of 200 to 300 pages per story. And then aside from that, we ask that the stories are written in English. And obviously no AI. We're supporting indie. We want everybody's voices to be heard, and we want to really support the small author and artist in all capacity. But when it comes to the actual story, whether it be poetry, whether it be graphic novels, whether it be short stories or just regular good old-fashioned novels, we're here for all of them. So submissions are always free, submissions are always open. And again, any questions, just use the contact us page, and I live on my email. I will answer it pretty quickly.
Yeah, and it's nice that it is that accessible for, when it comes to submissions. It's nice that it's kind of open to a variety, and you want to, it's all about showcasing those kind of, the
Yeah.
self-published community as a whole, which is really great to see.
Well, especially since we're changing themes every month, it really gives us an opportunity to read outside of our own comfort zones. I know for myself personally, I'm a big fan of sci-fi, dystopian, and historical fiction. But because of YPQ, I have read a lot of just stories outside that. I've read a lot of fantasy, I've read a lot of thrillers, and it's really opened my eyes to other genres. I don't want to spoil anything. I've read a few romances, and it's nice. It's nice to get that blend and variety, as it were.
Yeah, absolutely. The kind of final section I kind of wanted to cover is something that you've, clearly spent a lot of time on in terms of clarifying, explaining, and really making sure people, have a really firm
Yeah.
understanding of the structure of it, which is obviously the subscription section. So yeah, obviously you spent a lot of time kind of explaining and developing putting a lot of information into kind of how the subscription works itself. I don't know if this would be a good opportunity, obviously, Ryan, for you to kind of go over that and kind of also explain kind of what, how the page works and that process to it.
Yeah, and I think this was a big adjustment from the first website to the new ones that we've really tried to make the interface easy and seamless at the same time. We really want to make sure that the information is accessible for everybody. So that was changing the fonts and this and that to make it more legible. But ultimately, how the subscription-based model works in this instance is that we send out all of our books on the last working day of the month. If you subscribe monthly, your renewal will be on the 10th of the next month. If you do bi-monthly, excuse me, it's on the 5th of every other month. And if you do it quarterly, it's on the 7th of every third month. And the reason for that is just for us to be able to track it internally. When it comes down to how it all works, though, your waiting time depends on when you subscribe. So if you subscribe on the third of the month, you're still going to get the box at the end of the month on the last working day. But if you subscribe on the 27th, you're still going to get on the last working day. But then you're going to have your renewal 2 weeks later. So it's little things like that there's never going to be one right answer. And, some subscribers might feel a little bit hard done having to wait a month for the book to come, and others would feel really excited. And then the renewals come and they have to feel they wait a little bit longer. So we try to make it as fair as we can. We try to make it as seamless as we can, but we recognize, especially as we grow, there's going to be a little bit of growing curves there, a little bit of growing pains. But that's how we have it set up right now. When you subscribe, you get two self-published indie novels, and then on top of that, each novel comes with a little personalized note from the author. And this really ranges. We like leaving it up to the author to see how creative they're feeling or what they think would best fit with their novel. Some have done thank you notes, some have written recipes and music tracks, notes from the protagonist. So it is really cool to see that creative element in the story as well. Each story comes with a little curated bookmark. You get an invitation to join our book club, where we have meetings once a month and we discuss the stories together. Because one of our favorite parts about reading is talking about the story. But if you're reading stories that not very many others have read, you might run into that roadblock. So we're trying to address that at the same time. The other thing that we do is we're working on a loyalty program. It's in the works. We've got some, it's a I don't want to spoil it, but we have a really cool thing in the works right now. It's taking us a while, but it's almost done. At the end of the month, we also do interviews with every author that we feature. So if you have any questions for the author, just let us know, shoot us an email, or join us in the book club meeting, and then we will just go and relay those questions and get the direct responses. The other thing that we do is every month we try to have some form of partnership, whether it be a discount for another book related company, whether it be a short story edition. We've been dabbling a lot more with short stories lately, which has been a really nice little supplement or complement to the boxes as well. So that's kind of what you get when you sign up. And obviously you get the you get the reward of knowing that you're actually helping support the indie community.
Absolutely,
It's the
absolutely.
biggest takeaway.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean that was mostly it for questions. The only thing I'd like to kind of mention and I can obviously include and really the highlight for me is the community aspect, which really kind of getting a feel from and the creative energy and the sense of adventure that you kind of get when going through the page.
Yeah, yeah.
It's really fantastic to see and to highlight those authors and hopefully there'll be more opportunities for the local community to kind of or the self-published community, should I say, to kind of get involved in everything that your paper quest has going forwards.
Well, yeah, I thank you. I completely agree. I think it's like I've probably looked at the Discover New Authors page 100 times, if not more, over the last like 2 months. And it looks different on desktop than it does on mobile. On mobile, you have a larger opening image, but I just love the artist that did the website. His name is actually subsequently also Ryan, coincidentally also Ryan. And I just love what he's done with it, really blending in that kind of cozy reading nook, like medieval style, and then putting the stories on the shelves next to it. I adored. And then I actually made the artwork for these on Canva. I was really pleased with myself for it. I wanted to do them
That's great.
seasonally. But yeah, so I like how we have um the themes at the bottom and this and that. We just want to make it as seamless as possible. But yeah, if you see a story that you like, check it out because at the end of the day, it should be up to us to decide whether or not a story is good. And it should be up to us to decide whether or not a story should get exposure. It shouldn't be up to whether or not a publisher deems it so. Like we can control that. And there's so many ways that you can help support indie, obviously through us, but then there's also signing up for authors' newsletters, sharing their books, leaving reviews. And you can go to libraries, you can go to bookstores, and you can ask and make requests for authors to, or you can request libraries and bookstores. I'm losing my train of thought. You can request bookstores to stock your favorite self-published authors, your favorite indie authors. And you have enough people doing things like that and word of mouth, and then it really starts taking control and having a movement. Because sometimes you'll write a story because there's a story to tell, but you might only sell 15, 20 copies. So it's really, and not because it's a bad book, but just because we're not very good at marketing. And that's super okay. But we want to do more to try to help supplement the marketing and help get more exposure to these authors.
Absolutely. Very wise words.